I'm testing it out. That's why I'm sitting in a new location because my Ethernet cable wasn't long enough. I have a new one arriving today, so that I could sit in at my desk. But I'm just hoping that when I see things now, they will be clear and running smoothly because I have to host a convention this weekend, and so far there are 67 people registered. So I'm wanting my best connection possible. So
Well, you look pretty good and you sounded good. You broke up there just a little bit at one point, Grace, but other than that, you're sounding real good and looking good.
gee, broke up already, huh?
Well, if it was it just me, or did you break up for anybody else?
She looked good
Both
here,
of you
but
have- both of-
her sound is in perfect sync and it looks good.
Okay.
Then it's me, Grace.
Well, I know we'll just blame it on Zoom. Okay, I'm just kind of saying what I'm waiting to see videos and see if they come in well also.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, super. So hi, Holly. Hi, Ken. Good to see you guys too. Barb, good to see
Hello.
you. And so user, you always come up as user. I think is your name. Are you Phil?
I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. As I'm
I like you.
learning people's names.
But it wouldn't take anonymous, so I couldn't. Put it.
So you did user, cool. Okay, let's see. We've got anybody else who has videos to show? And my next question is, Kevin, do you want to do your presentation after we show some videos?
I think that's a very smart idea, just because
Okay.
I can go as short or as long as need be.
Awesome. Okay. So Todd possibly has a video for us, and Gary's going to show us his animation. And do we have any other videos that are ready for today? Oh,
Nope.
okay. How about if we start with you, Gary? Is that all right?
You have to turn your audio on, Gary. There
Yeah, I
you go.
have to unmute myself here. Okay, so for those that weren't here last week, this is an animation that I did. It kind of falls in between what I call a stinger and a trailer that I put together as an introduction to the studio. And the main purpose was a challenge to see how far I could really take iMovie. And I know there's some real limitations with iMovie, but I wanted to figure out ways to maybe overcome some of them. Part of it, I used Keynote to do some animations that I then imported into the final complete composite for iMovie. And so a key element here is obviously I did some things outside of iMovie, but when I ran it last week, I had some comments from everybody that I thought were very good. One of them, I think it was Kevin suggested I reverse the main fly-in background so that it's coming away from us as the other elements are coming toward us. So I did that. And I also changed some delays and some fade ins, fade outs of the individual elements to make them more compatible with each other. So we'll see what happens here. Let's see.
Good morning.
Quit the share and come back. Does everybody see the screen, Black?
Oh.
I see you.
Okay, let me share this again. Yeah, here we go. All right, here we go. Remember, there's no sound. So that's it.
What did you think, Gary, of reversing the two? I really liked it. I thought that just gave it a nice feel.
Yeah, I think I liked it too. It has more of a contrast in movement with the other pieces flying towards the viewer.
Yeah, very professional looking.
Thank you.
Wow.
Like
still-
the changes, I thought that it enhanced the short video there. I like
Okay.
that.
I'm still working on putting together the music, which I've got a couple approaches. I haven't decided which one's the most effective. So as soon as I get that done, maybe we'll have one more review.
How long did that run?
It runs about 40 seconds.
It seemed shorter. So I think that's a good sign.
Oh, okay. No, it
Yeah.
should be the same length as before, but maybe it's the feeling of the way, since there I removed any delays in some of the pieces as they started out. So maybe that made it feel shorter.
Sure didn't seem like 40 seconds, Gary. It really moved in that. As Brian says, that's a positive.
Okay, good.
The other thing that was nice, I thought too, Gary, is that you also, by adding those fades a little bit to your little elements that flew in, that really made it nice as well. It kind of softened that all up. And I thought that was really good.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So then you save that and you're going to use it on the start of all your shows?
Well, probably not. I would have something much shorter.
Okay,
But again, this was more of a challenge piece that I really wanted to see how I could implement animations done initially with Keynote and then bring it into iMovie and integrate the whole thing.
okay, good. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Todd, have you been able to find your video? You're muted, so we can't hear you.
He's still muted. I could read a no on his lips.
Okay.
For some reason, when I tried to come into the meeting today, I got this notice that Zoom could not use my audio system and I had to
Wow.
sign into the new system and all this stuff. And I just closed everything out and signed in again and it was fine.
Cool.
I think Grace was trying to make a comment earlier, but Grace, you were muted, so none of us heard that.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying to Gary that I would like to see how that works better.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to have a demo at some point.
Oh, that'd be good.
Show what I did.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that too.
Would you be interested, Gary, in doing that next week?
I would, except I'm not sure how this week is looking. My wife is going through
Okay.
some tests medically and we're waiting for some results. So I'm not sure how this week looks, so I have to say no right now.
Okay, okay, thank you. We'll look forward to getting that on the calendar then for a little bit later. Thank you. Any other videos before we turn it over to Kevin? No. All right, Kevin, all yours. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, this is just a little demonstration in Final Cut Pro. And just, I think some of the things may translate to what you're doing as well, possibly, and just how we kind of do things. And so what I was going to do is just do make a short little video and show you how I normally would put something together. And if you have any questions during this, just please blurt them out and ask versus waiting at the end, because I'm kind of scatterbrained too. And if you've got something, it's easier to show you now versus at the end of this thing. The other goodie I'll tell you is I've only been shooting video for about 6 years. So there's still so much that I have to learn about these programs and what I'm shooting and stuff. I've been a still photographer freelancing for over 30 years. So my knowledge really is in that and not as much in video. But I have been making slideshows for over 20 years using different various programs. So finally got to Final Cut Pro and started on Final Cut version 3, and that's a number of years ago. And now we're on version 10, which is a newer program. Some professionals, when 10 came out, did not like it. A lot of them switched to Adobe Premiere, but there's a lot of functionality that version 10 has, Final Cut 10 has, that is somewhat like iMovie. So they're obviously more
Did
complicated.
they upgrade for free or did you have to pay each time?
I want to say when we went to 10, I did pay for that. It's been so long, it's probably been 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
So I can't remember, but every time that there's any sort of new upgrade, they do upgrade it. I've had no issues. So my assumption is until a Final Cut 11 comes out, that probably any upgrade is going to be free.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you're fine if you buy it. The other goodie is too, just because it goes, let's say it goes to a Final Cut 10 or an 11, I mean, it doesn't mean you have to go that. If you're happy with 10 and it does all the things you want it to do, then great, just stay with the program. So anyway, the other goodie I wanted to just kind of, before I started too, was show you, hang on a second here. I was just going to talk about workflow. And this is just an idea that anybody can use. When I do when I do a project, whatever the project is, I create a folder for that project, and I'll create different folders within the folder. So as you can see in this one, I've got like a graphics folder. I've got a folder with music. If I've got photos, I've got those in here. All my video stuff is here. And then this is my Final Cut project. And when I click on that, then Final Cut opens. And the thing that I found, which really makes life a lot easier, is if you can put these projects into a folder, all your elements, because what invariably is going to happen is you're going to take stuff off of your hard drive, and then you're going to be missing elements. Oh my gosh, I want to update. I've learned a new technique, and I want to update my slideshow or my video or whatever it is. And at some point you say to yourself, oh, where did that music go? Or where did these photos go? So if you keep it all in one folder and then you burn it off or download it, that works for me. Now, if you've got a system that works for you, great, use it. You don't have to do this because I do it.
Kevin,
So anyway.
can you take a movie that's done in iMovie and import it into Final Cut Pro and then edit it, change it?
I doubt it. I'm not sure about that. I've never, well, I should say, if you're talking about the program itself from iMovie, where you've done all your edits and your titles and your transitions and all that, my assumption is you can't, but I'd have to look into that for you, Holly. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I do know that there was when I went from the last version before 10 was Final Cut 7, and there was a program that would convert the files from 7 to 10. It somewhat did an okay job. It wasn't perfect, but at least it saved a lot of work on the back end. So anyway, so that's kind of my philosophy or my thought on those things. So now let's just we're going to look at iMovie. You got me going on that now.
Sorry.
That's okay. So this is Final Cut 10. This is the screen for 10. And what I'm going to do is just kind of walk you around the program a second. We've got on the left side up here in the top left corner, you can have your different projects that you've opened and you're working on. Sometimes I find that I have a couple of projects I'm working on, especially if I'm doing something for Caterpillar. I might have 2 or 3 projects and I'm pulling elements from those projects. Now we import, now you'll have to tell me if I hit this pop-up, do you see this pop-up? Hang on a second. I don't know if it's going to pop, but can you see that or not?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, anyway, you come in and you're basically going to say, okay, I want to import, certain files, and I can look at photos. I can import a whole folder, whatever I've got. Here's, a video file. And so I can just say import all these files into my program. So when I do that, then everything is going to come up here in my content box, so to speak. So I can have my video. I've got all my different goodies. If I've got any still photography, that's in here. I can have my music in here. And that's where I'm going to work from when I do my stuff. The other goodie, and I think Grace had asked about this, and I didn't realize, I've never used it, but there is a thing for music and there are sound effects in here. And I was kind of surprised by that. I've never used that. Or there's also iTunes, and you've got other areas that you can import stuff. So I've never used my iTunes library just because it's not royalty free. Now the other goodie go ahead.
I was going to say those sound effects come way back from iLife with the Apple, which was way, way back there. And it looks like they're still continuing to include them.
Yeah, well, it's something that's nice to know. Like I've never bothered to look for those things. And so anyway, it's nice that
credit to use from our solar panels.
somebody like.
Don't use it up, then it just goes away.
There we go. The other up here in the top left, the other goodie that we have, this is titles, and you can go in and select different titles. Now in iMovie, they don't have a lot of options for this. I don't use a lot of these. You basically can change all the text that you see here in terms of any sort of where it says like title or information. You can change that to whatever you would like that to be. The one that I use all the time, which I am shocked that iMovie does not have, is just this basic title slide where you create your own text and you can put it in however you want. So that was very surprising to me that iMovie did not even have that feature, because it just to me is very basic. So in iMovie, they've got a lot of different stuff that is very, it's already ready to go. All you do is change these titles to whatever you want them to be. So there's lots of options. You can do like the Star Wars thing and all that. And like I said, I never really use a lot of these things, but they are there in case you want to use them.
Hey, Kevin, can you back up just a second?
Yeah.
You're kind of mixing iMovie with
Final Cut
Pro. So which is which?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Final Cut Pro doesn't have the titles, or does?
Well, Final Cut does have all of these things that I'm showing you now. iMovie is very limited in what it has, Phil.
Okay, I got that, but you kind of in your spiel switched them, so I was curious.
Oh, don't worry. I'm all full of everything. So that's not a problem, Phil. I appreciate your jumping in. The other goodie that we have up here that I do use is called generators. And these are just basically different little animated pieces that are all ready to go. You can use them. I don't use a lot of this, but the one thing I do use, and I'm going to use it here in a bit, is this grayscale, and I'll show you how I use that. But there's all kinds of gradations and stuff, and you could use these as a background and then put a title over it, let's say. So they do have lots of options here in Final Cut that you can use. I would assume that most people probably don't use a lot of these, but they are there if you want to use them, and they are animated. And in some regard, you can incorporate some of these if you so desire. So that works out pretty well. So that's there. The other goodie that we have, hang on a second, we'll go back. We have we've talked about this before when Brian was talking about Audacity. We have our sound level down here in the bottom right, and you can see your sound levels, and we'll talk about that just a little bit when we get into this. The other goodie that we have is we have up on the top right here, we have all these options for things that we can do, from making color adjustments. We can make sound adjustments to the volume and different, if we need to raise or lower. We can also, the thing that I do like, I don't use it a lot, but you can analyze the clip. So you just click on the button, it'll analyze it. And if there's any sort of a issue, it will try to go in and fix it. If you don't like it, you can just turn it off.
Are those adjustments specific only to one still or one clip, or can you choose a number of them to
No,
adjust at once?
it would only be for the volume. It's only specific for that one clip. The one thing that I've learned, let's say like I've got this clip here that we're going to work on. This is of Robert over in Tombstone. Well, I've taken a small section of that clip, which what we're going to work on. If you look, I've got here's the whole clip. Well, you can see on the left side here of the frame where it's highlighted. I can make that adjustment to that entire clip. And normally I would say you do that first, because to have to go back and let's say we start cutting this clip up a little bit, then you're going to make those adjustments later. So it's better just to make it all at once at the beginning. Like we're going to do an exposure and stuff. We're going to make that all right out of the box here. Then we don't have to mess with it again. And so that takes care of that. And then the other goodie that this does is if we're going to make any sort of adjustments to the color, or we're going to zoom in, we're going to crop the image, whatever we're going to do on the top left here, it kind of shows all that. They also have a stabilization filter, which is really nice. If things are a little jerky, it kind of helps.
So Kevin, I think in iMovie, there's a way, if you make an adjustment to one clip and then you want to make the same adjustment to say the next two clips, there's a way to kind of automatically do that. Do you know how to do that? I mean, I assume Final Cut Pro does that, does it?
I would assume that if iMovie can do it, that probably Final Cut can do it. The thing that anybody will tell you that works on any of these programs, unless you've been doing it for a number of years, they are so deep. There's so much, and it goes to any like Photoshop, if you're doing Adobe Premiere or DaVinci Resolve, even iMovie is we're trying to figure out some of that and help people with that. There's a lot that's there. So I think it's possible, Holly.
Look
Yeah,
for
but
adjustment
you can't
layers.
like quickly tell me.
Yeah, I'd have to do some
Okay.
investigating. It's something I've never run into in terms of I'm always adjusting clips individually. So
Yeah, I'm thinking like in this one, if you had chosen, say, a filter to make this look antique,
Right.
and then you wanted to apply that to whatever number in your movie,
Sure.
there's a way I think to do it, but I don't know it. So that's where I'm at.
Sure.
They're
Well,
called
that's okay.
adjustment layers.
Yeah, we could certainly, I can certainly look into that some more. Like I said, I'm not, there's so much of this program. I know the things I know,
Yeah.
for want of a better term. And when I don't know something, I look it up on YouTube and try to see if there's answers there.
Good. Okay. Thanks.
So anyway, so what I've done to save us time, since we have limited time, I've got some of these clips. I've got Robert, and then I've got some B-roll, which is the timeline. That's the last thing. Down here is the timeline at the very bottom. And there's a gray bar here you see. I normally, this is me, I put any music or anything down here below the gray bar. I try to keep my content, my video and stills up above the top of the line. So it helps me kind of keep track of what's going on. So anyway, let's build a real quick little video and I'll show you what we do. I've taken a shot from, this is from Tombstone from Shefflin Days, which I shot Saturday. Now this is from last fall. And what we're going to do is just build a quick little open of this. So what I want to do is go to my title section. And again, I'm not going to do anything super fancy. Let's just come up with something super easy here. No, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Is this what I want? Fade. Yeah, let's just do this. Okay. So I can take the clip, I highlight the clip. I drag it down on top of the video. So you see there's a title there. And again, we're rushing to do this. So we could just say Tombstone AZ. Now I can also change the size or the font. This is something that iMovie is very limited at. Final Cut uses all the fonts in my computer, which I've got over 400. So I have plenty of options with whatever it is that I want to go with. I can change the size. The other goodie is I can move that type around. So I use the transform button, which is this button here.
Where? Wait a minute. Where are you? I can't see.
I'm right here in the, you see me circling?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I can do transform, I can crop, or I can distort an image or text. So transform, all I'm going to do is just slide the type up.
Okay. And you can change color if you want, right?
I can change color. I go down here, what's called on the right side called face. And I can say, make it red. Boom. Okay. So there we go. I can add drop shadow. I can do all kinds of, there's lots of options. So we've got our little text. So it's going to fly in. Boom. There we go. Here's the goodie. Nice. Okay. So now let's go to Robert. Now the thing I want to do to start with Robert is I want to, you can see the image here is kind of, he's in the shadow and it's soft. It's very, the image is flat. There's not a lot of contrast between lights and darks. So what I can do is I'm going to go in and on my view, I'm going to put up this nice little scope. And this is showing me from 100%, which is pure white, anything above 100%, you see how the numbers are going up to 103, 104, 105 over here. Well, anything over this, they call it clipping. Anything over 100% is called clipping. And it means there's no detail in it. Well, 0 is pure black, let's say. So what I want to do is I'm going to make an adjustment here. I'm going to the top right here and I'm going to my exposure. Now I've got a master switch. I've also got shadow and highlight and a midtone that I can raise or lower. So basically as a video buddy of mine says, he calls it flavor to taste. So it's whatever your taste is, you flavor it however you want. So in this case, what I want to do is I want to bring that down a little bit to give it a little bit more contrast. So I'm going to start dropping that down till we see the bottom here got down to about 0. Well, look at the difference from that. Do it one more time. You see how flat he looks? Let's bring that down. Boom, about right there. So you can see without even doing anything else, I've really added some texture and life to him. He looks good. On the top end, you could go up just a little bit. These spikes here, if you look at his hat and then this area here where there's a little bit, maybe a wind chime or something, that's probably what this is right here. So we could raise that just a little bit. And that's probably, if you look at that, that looks pretty good. So you see he's got a nice clean look, looks good. All right, the next thing that we want to do.
Kevin, did that adjust all the photos that you have of him or just that one shot?
No, it's only this clip. So what I would end up doing with any of these other clips is going in on this B-roll that we're going to use. And I haven't adjusted any of this and I won't have time to do it today for this demonstration, but I would go in and check these and make sure. So the next thing I want to do is I want to listen to him, and we're gonna look over here to the right side at the sound levels. I really like it at about a -6 is my happy spot in terms of sound. When Brian was talking about it a couple of weeks ago with Audacity, he said, I think he likes to be in the -3 to -6 range, something like that. And so I find that -6 gives me a little latitude in case they go a little too much, because people don't tend to talk evenly. They come up and down. So anyway, let's give that a little listen.
Rock drilling goes back to the way they drilled back in the 1800s. It was all done with a 4-pound sledge and a drill steel, which is basically like a chisel. What they do is they take that, they hit the chisel and turn it.
If you saw that little bit right there where he's been pretty consistent at -6, and then he goes up to about a -3.
Like a chisel. What they do is they take that, they hit the chisel and turn it.
So you saw that, how right over here on the right side, he went up a little high, but I'm still safe because I don't want to go over 0, because then it's going to start to get distorted and not sound good. So anyway,
So Kevin, basically, what do the -0 and positive numbers mean?
well, it's what it's telling us is what the level of sound is that has any sort of sound. Like here's an example of this guy is pounding with the hammer, where you're going to see he's going to go way above 0.
And what's 0?
Well, 0 is like when we talk about video. Remember how we talked about anything over 100% was distortion?
Yeah.
You know, or we're clipping. Well, the same with the audio. We don't want to go above 0 because we're going to start to get that distortion in the sound. He's not going to sound good.
Okay.
So the bad thing about iMovie is you don't have a meter like that.
Right.
So it really, it makes it hard to, I think that's why, like Gary had talked, or Brian had talked about using Audacity, where they do have those capabilities, and then you can go in and check that level and make sure that your levels, like I said, I like them right about -6, and I'm real happy there.
So you don't need to use Audacity, or do you?
No, I don't need to, because Final Cut
Okay.
does all the things I need it to do. The thing that's nice about Audacity is obviously it's free, but
Yeah.
it does create another step and layer where once I get into the program, I want to be doing everything, and I don't want to screw around opening up 3-4 programs to get everything done.
Yep,
So
exactly. Okay.
that does make it a little, it makes it a lot easier.
Now,
Kevin?
Holly,
Yes, sir.
because you don't have-
Actually, there is a way to add a audio meter to iMovie. It requires just using a plugin, but they're free, and at least it gives you some relative view of the levels.
Well, that would be great, Gary. You know, if you can let Grace know what that plugin is, because I know that we got some of our iMovie people that when we were playing with it before, and I was like, this is horrible. I can't figure out what's going on. So see, this is why we love doing this. We're figuring out stuff. We get our friends together. Everybody kind of knows a little more. It helps us all out.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so back to Final Cut.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
I got it.
So anyway, the other goodie I want to do for Robert is I want to create a quick title slide for him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my generators and I'm going to add. Now I could use one of the other title slides that they have, but I'm just going to show you this as an idea. You see, I've put this grayscale on top of his video. What I can do is on the top right here, I can crop this. So I can say, okay, from the top, I'm coming in. You see that? And then from the bottom, I'm going to come in. And now the other thing that I can do, which I like to do, is I'm going to turn the opacity down so it's not just a solid line. So up top right here, you see it, we're at 100% opacity. If we bring it down to, here's 50%, that looks pretty good. Now let's go back to the titles on the top right. Let's get a basic title. And then we're going to put Robert's name in there. So we'll go back to the top right. Here's my composer where I can, you see I've highlighted, so I'm going to go Robert Davenport. And for sake of time, I'm not going to screw around with anything else short of, I'm going to bring it down here.
Nice.
And then we can also, just to make it easier to see, I'm going to make his text black just to show it a little easier. Okay. And we could add, again, we could add a little drop shadow to that. And then we could turn down the, if we do show, it shows you your options. Add a little blur to it. That just softens it up, the distance. Make it 10 points. Boom, away we go. That's too much. Let's make it 7 points. There we go. So we got a nice little shadow. Okay. Now the other goodie is I only want this to be up for maybe about 4 or 5 seconds. Depends on how much text you have here. Right now you can see this part here. It's showing me that I have 10 seconds of stuff. Of time for this box. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink this, and you see how it's going from 9 seconds. Now we're down around 5. Boom. And then we're going to do the same thing with his name. We're going to shorten that up to 5 seconds. The other thing we're going to do, we're going to add a little we're going to do a fade, like in iMovie, you can do your fade in, fade out, your fades. Well, I'm doing that here with opacity. So I'm going to click on the little dot here. And if I drag that to the right, you can see I'm going in seconds. So I'm going to go up to 1 second on the front end and a 1 second fade out on the back end, or close enough. The other goodie is I'm going to do the same thing here with his name, just to make it a little cleaner. So let's give it about a 1 second fade up and a 1 second down. We'll do the same thing on the text. And I've got to hurry because we're starting to run out of time. It's amazing how how short of a time period this is. Okay. So now we've got them doing that. The last thing the two last things we're going to do, we're going to add a little B-roll in here. So let's just listen to them for a second. Now these little dots here represent that it's rendering, but you can still go ahead and play it. So let's listen to a little bit. We're going to add some B-roll.
Rock drilling goes back to the way they drilled back in the 1800s. It was all done with a 4-pound sledge and a drill still, which is...
Okay, so at this point, let's just add a little B-roll. Here's a guy that's doing some stuff. He's pounding. What I'm doing is shorten it up just to get it to a point where he's about to hit that. He's doing a couple of good whacks. Good. I like that. That's 10 seconds. That's probably too much time. Okay, let's just do that. We're gonna do the same thing on the front end of this. We're gonna add a little fade up. We're gonna have one more clip, and that's all we're gonna do for this. Here's a guy hitting the rock. We're gonna fade out 1 second, just on that little B-roll, because it's gonna go back to Robert talking at the end. Okay. Not last thing, but we're gonna do this. I want to show you one other little trick, and you'll like this. I'm going back to my stuff, and I will be happy to send these out. This is something that I could not figure out how to do in iMovie. This is basically, we call it a matte edge. So what this is going to do, hang on. It adds, if I turn it off, you see how we're dark. See around the edge how it darkens everything up? There it's in, there it's out. So it adds a really nice kind of a highlight thing. It darkens all this background up, and Robert still looks good. The other goodie that I use a lot for some of these projects, I've got what I call a 45 degree, and I won't use it on this, but I can add darkness either the top or the bottom, and it's a gradated screen that I made. So I could add that too. So you can see if I turn that on or off, again, you can play with the opacity, and you've got a lot of flexibility on what you can do with that. Okay. Last thing we want to do, let's add a little music to this, and I'll show you how we do the volumes, and then when that'll just about take care of it. Here's the one trick that I have learned about music. I zoom in here to the timeline. You see down here, the clip, as the clip starts, there's no music. Here's the music right there. So you don't want to do this where you start the music or you line up the clip and you say, I've lined up my video to the music. Well, the music doesn't start right away. So what I do is I just slide that down to where it's about starting. Okay, and then I'll make this a little smaller, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do on the volume here. Okay. So what I already know is my music is set at 0 decibels, so it's whatever it's recorded at. What I've found usually is to start, maybe I'm going to go at -10 decibels, so -10, top right corner here. So we're at -10, so let's listen. And when Robert starts talking, this is simply done by your ear and how you're listening to the music and his voice. You'd like the music to be there, but you don't want it to overpower Robert. So let's give a listen on the intro.
Rock drilling goes back to the way they drilled back in the 1800s.
So if you hear that, the music's still a little too loud. Robert's getting drowned out. So what we're going to do is we're going to, at our music here, we're going to put in a little keyframe down at the bottom. And we're at -10 B, top 10 decibels, top right. Here's my little keyframe here. I can slide that around. I've found usually for some songs, I go down at least 10 or 15 decibels. So let's go to -20 and let's just see how that sounds. So you get a little flavor at the beginning and then when he talks.
Rock drilling goes back to the way they drilled back in the 1800s.
You like that? That sounds pretty good to me. His voice sounds good. The music sounds pretty good. Last thing we can do, and this is just one other quick little goodie I'll show you. And then we'll be able to take some questions. Let me do one last thing here with the music. All I'm doing is just shortening it up. And then I'm going to put a little 1 second fade at the end of the music just so it doesn't just abruptly end. And then I'm going to do the same thing with that. Okay. This is what's called a bug. And you can take a name or a logo or something for a company and put this in the video. And I've done this before with some of the videos I've done. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to back to our timeline, and I'm going to make this just a little smaller so it's a little compressed, a little easier to see. I can put the bug in. And as you see, the bug is too big. So what we're going to do is we're going to go here to the top right to scale, and I'm going to drop the size down. Now this is the logo for their donkey dash that they have. I can move that up into the top corner. It's still a little big. Let's maybe go down to 20%. Okay. Now you could also change the opacity too if you wanted to take that back a little bit, but I find if you're going to have a bug, you're probably going to run it 100% to maybe 50% at most. All right. So last thing we're going to do, just to clean all this up, we're going to add a little fade out on our intro. So we'll give it a nice little 1 second out, and we'll do the same thing with the text. So we're going to change that opacity and just give it a 1 second to fade out. And then let's add a 1 second on our bug to fade up and fade out. And then let's look at the whole little piece, and then we can answer any more questions you have. Okay, there's 1 second approximately. And normally we don't bang videos out this quick. Okay, it's going to render. You see all this right here. It'll top right corner, it's telling us how much time it's rendering. So it goes pretty fast. We want to make sure that we render everything before we show it, because if you've made an effect or something, it's not going to show up. Okay. And there we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's watch our video.
Rock drilling goes back to the way they drilled back in the 1800s. It was all done with a 4-pound sledge and a drill steel, which is basically like a chisel. What they do is they take that, they hit the chisel and turn it a quarter of a turn in between each turn. They have 10 minutes to drill as fast as they can into solid granite. It's an incredible competition. After 4 minutes, most of the time they can't feel their arms. After 6 minutes, their shoulders are in so much pain, but all of it's for bragging rights. It's an incredible competition.
All right, there you go. That's the quickest video I've ever made.
That was
Nice
awesome.
job, Kevin, really. Thank
Wow.
Yeah, very, very
That
nice.
was awesome.
Very good.
Well, hopefully those are some things that you can incorporate in whatever program you're using. You kind of see how we do some of those fade in and fade outs with our text and our images. And like on the B-roll, we go in and you can add those fade and fade out. It gives it a nice transition instead of being really abrupt.
Yeah.
Now I'll show you real quick one other goodie. I'm just going to show you something in the timeline, just so you can see how complicated this can get. This is a thing I've done for Caterpillar. Hang on a second. And this, I'm going to shrink this down just in terms of the size. So this is all these layers of, there's text, there's different pieces of video. We've got in-cab stuff. We've got GoPro going. We've got the monitors up here that are monitoring what's going on in the machinery. And so all these layers you can see, I mean, I don't know what the number of layers that you can do. I think it used to be like 100 layers of video and maybe 50 layers of audio. So, and they may have upped that by now, but that was a number of years ago, but you can see it can get very complicated and can get incredibly time consuming. So
That's a lot
Can you-
bigger than two.
Yeah.
Can you
Yes, it
save
is.
your content as a folder? Like automatically?
Yeah, I
print?
do. I say,
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
Final Cut, the one thing that's nice about Final Cut is it's always saving. So you don't have to, with some programs back in the day, if you didn't save it, you work for a half hour and then all at once the computer locks up or crashes. And you didn't save it, well, you've lost all that time. In Final Cut, it's always saving. So every time that you're doing something new, it's saving. So you never save anything, and which really makes it a nice feature. And then, like I said, I keep everything in a folder, all the different elements of the program in terms of the video, the music, the still photography, the graphics. So when I'm done, I can burn that off, put that on a hard drive. And if I have to come back to that and make another version of it down the road, I've got all those elements right there. It really makes things easy.
But Kevin, like you create a folder and to get the elements in there,
Yeah.
can you just drag from your content in there?
You mean you're talking about from like a hard drive or your?
No, I'm talking about when you have Final Cut open, you have that, it's like a library on the left.
Oh, yeah.
Your content.
Yes. That
Which is
basically,
essentially the contents of one of those folders, correct?
that's correct. Anything that, if I go back to this real quick, hang on a second. So everything that I've imported into the program here on the top left is what's in that folder on my computer. That always stays in there unless you delete it.
Yeah, so my question is, can you drag it from here, from your content into your folder and then it's done?
Well, I don't know what the purpose would be.
Because then when you're not in Final Cut,
Yeah.
you could just open your folder and there it would be.
Yeah, but you've already got it. You don't need to.
Well, 3 years from now, there it would be.
Well, no. Well, everything would still be in the program. If you like, here's that folder that I create on my computer that's got all my content, and it's got the Final Cut program right here. Let's say now I burn this off to an external hard drive. 3 years from now, if I open this program back up, I put this back on my computer, I click on my icon here, everything that you saw in the program is going to be right back where it was. So you don't have to re-import it or do anything else. I don't know that answered your question.
I don't know that it did either. I have to try it.
I think Kevin wants you to do it in the reverse. You put all your content in folders before you start your project.
You're right, Grace.
And then, or you keep adding to those folders.
Yes.
So that on your desktop, on your computer, everything is on in those folders at all times and at the end even.
Yes,
And
so I
set it
understand
reverse.
that. But could you do it the reverse?
Why?
I don't know why you
Yeah.
would, Grace. Or Holly, I mean.
The stuff that's in,
Kevin, I have a couple questions.
Holly, the stuff that's in Final Cut is not the actual file. It's not the picture, it's not the video clip. It's just a pointer to where the file is. You're not modifying the original file at all. You're working on the stuff that
Yeah.
it's not.
That's what I was afraid of. So what you're telling me is, no, you can't do that. It would be empty. Your folder, if you dragged like your content into a folder, it would just be the pointers. It wouldn't be the stuff.
Wouldn't be anything.
Right.
Brian's right.
Okay. Got it.
Right.
Sorry. I thought it
Yeah,
was.
because if you deleted the original photo, it wouldn't be in that movie folder.
That's correct.
Right.
Right, Ron.
So
Okay.
Kevin, when you are importing stuff, Are you doing a copy or are there just links, pointers to where your material's at?
It's a pointer back to the original file, Ciro, but it does have to render all the files. It does a thing called transcoding. And so it has to, in a sense, make an adjustment and say, okay, Final Cut wants that program a certain way or wants that file a certain way. And so it makes these adjustments to the file. It makes it easier so you don't have to render as long when you get it in the program.
Okay, so
yeah, go ahead.
Once the Final Cut project is done, did you move it over back to the folder where you initially imported stuff, or does it do that automatically?
It takes that program that you saw, that little icon, I'll show you again. I don't have to do anything, export this in any way short of exporting the movie out to show it. So everything is in this folder, and there's my Final Cut folder. You see, for this project, it's a 1.2 terabyte file.
Oh my God.
Well, that's the thing that I just showed you that I'm doing for Caterpillar. So it's a big file, but you don't have to go in and physically drag stuff back in. It's all automatic and taken care of. It's real super easy. Go ahead, Brian.
The drawback to the system that you got to beware of is that, yes, you bring it out of your folder, you work on it in the program, you save the program, you export your file, and you go about your business. If you move the original folders to another drive or another subdirectory or whatever, next time, if you decide you want to modify that movie and you open up Final Cut or whatever you're using, when you open it up, it's not going to know where you moved the original to. So you're going to have to track it down and relink it. They don't go away. And once you relink, it'll all be back again. Just keep track of what went where.
Yeah, Brian's right. The thing that really is nice about these programs, like you said, if you would bring it back to your computer to work on it, is that it does, there's a button called relink file. I can show you real quick. Hang on.
That's pretty common to most.
Yeah. Can you see that? There's relink file.
There you go.
And I can go in and say original media, and it goes and looks on your hard drive and goes, oh, here's your files. And you click the button and say, okay, this is the files. And it automatically does everything, and it'll re-render it, and away you go. So it's a great program, and if you start to play with it, and the same like with DaVinci Resolve or with Premiere, it's whatever you're comfortable with, or iMovie. If the program does all the things you want it to do, then great. There's no reason to go somewhere else. There's too much to relearn. And Brian's laughing because he knows. So anyway, so that's it. Does anybody else have any other questions about it that I can answer, hopefully?
Kevin, what are the specs on your Mac? You know, how much RAM are you using, what GPU, et cetera?
Well, this current, I have the Apple, they call it the trash can. And I just bought, and it will be hooked up later this week, the new Mac Pro, they call it the cheese grater. And this baby is going to really rock. The thing that I'm finding is when we start getting into these files that are terabyte and bigger, it's really bogging down. This trash can's only got 32 gig of RAM. And when I started, when I got this thing, I thought, oh, that's plenty. I don't need much more than that. The new cheese grater's got 96 gig of RAM, and it's got a pretty peppy, like a 12-core processor. So I'm anxious to get Final Cut on that and get rocking on that. So it should be really fun.
Kevin, did you get the $6,000 monitor to go with the Mac Pro?
No, I spent $8,500 on the computer, and I'm like, okay. And I did get a new LG monitor that was $1,200. So I thought that's enough money spent for this week.
Wow.
Is that new Apple going to have the new Apple Silicon chip?
I don't know.
Gary, I would suspect that it would be the last one to have it because it's a niche market. I mean, he paid 8,500 for it. I think it starts out base unit 6,000.
Sounds right.
They're about, I got a refurb, so I probably am, who knows what that would be, like 10,000 new. They go from, Cyril's right, the base price is around 6,000 up to 50,000, which.
Kevin, I have a question.
You bet, Peg.
Who is your financial advisor?
It sounds like you're volunteering, Peg.
Not his wife.
You know, Peg, those paying jobs are what provide all these nice toys. So if I wasn't doing this as a profession, there's no way I would have these things. But you do reach a point where you're getting bogged down in the program and it's not working as fast as it should, or there's the Apple people know there's a little color wheel that spins when the computer is thinking. I call it the spinning pizza wheel of death, because when that's happening, there's nothing you can do. Well, we're getting to a point now within Final Cut where I'm asking so much of this program that it's bogging down and it's taking forever. And as much as I don't want to spend that kind of money, you just say, I got to have this so I can get the job done. So
I understand. Now, Final Cut is not available for the PC, is it? For Windows?
That's correct. It's an Apple product. But you
Strictly an Apple product. Yeah.
But you could do like a Adobe Premiere, Peg.
Yeah, the same process. Yes.
Yeah. Or DaVinci Resolve, right, Brian? You're on a PC.
Yeah, go DaVinci Resolve. Premiere Pro costs
Yeah.
not much money
Yep.
because it's the gift that never stops picking up.
Well, I'm going to interrupt because I need to sign off. I know it's already, that just went so fast. Thank you so much, Kevin. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone again next week and seeing some new videos.
You bet.
Thank you, Gary. That was good.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Stop recording.